Hello and welcome back to my channel. Recently I posted a question asking you guys if you would like to watch a video about a system that is not in English, in a foreign language. And in my case, my foreign language, my native language is Portuguese. I do not live in my native country. I left about 10 years ago. I was not even playing RPG for a long time. And I just came back to the hobby. It's been, I do not know, a year or maybe 2 years. I basically discovered a new whole world of solo RPG, and I rediscovered the RPG as well that is in Brazil at this time. I had no idea of how much good material they have produced there. I could mention some names here just to maybe bring something to the table. There is one creator called Cesar Capacle, and he recently actually won the best solo game in the Crit Awards 2023. And this game is called Not a Demon. It is available on itch.io, as well as a lot of other games that he had produced, such as the Push SRD and Kismet. But just go there to itch.io and check his library. He has a lot of good stuff there. Moreover, there is this indie company called Green Little Thing, and they have two games that are really popular, Note Quest and Ronin. And I already saw a lot of people in the RPG solo community talking about these two games. And actually, I played Note Quest first in English, and then after that, after some time, I realized that was actually a Brazilian game. For today, I would like to show you a system that I recently found in one of the Brazilian communities, and this system is called Espadas Punhais. And if I translate this to English, it is swords and daggers. And one can clearly see by taking a look at this picture that it is a OSR game. One could say, okay, but this game is not in English, so why do I care? Yeah, you're right. Maybe you don't care about it, but it's a good opportunity if people are willing to know more about it. I do not know the author, but I could contact him and maybe try to help him translate it to English. Furthermore, one could see some rules from here and maybe add this to their own game. Or you could just download this because this system is free, and you could try to translate it by yourself. This is actually what most people do in other countries when they do not speak English. They try to use several tools to be able to play their games. Let's go just into this book. First of all, this is the character sheet. And what do we have here? We have the name, we have folk, vocation, evolution, experience. So folk is basically the race, vocation is basically the class, and we have 4 attributes. We have strength, agility, spirit, and I'm not sure how to translate this. It could be presence or posture or something like this. It's basically the social attribute. And then we have vitality. It's the hit points, so the amount of life that you have, mana, attack, defense, and armor. And we have here saving throws as well. It's death and poison, breath and paralysis, and basically power and magic. We have room for your weapons, for your talents, equipments, and the amount of weight that you are carrying, and languages as well. So the character sheet is really simple. And one can clearly see already the difference because we do not have the 6 standards attributes, actually we only have 4. And we have even simplified attributes for attack. What does it mean? These are basically attributes or sub-attributes that derives from the main attributes. And we are going to see this as well. So the creator is Álvaro Botelho. And we have these people here that illustrated the book. And we have really good illustrations here. And I like it a lot. So one can clearly see here in the introduction, the picture, this image, it's really amazing. So in the introduction, they just basically talk about what RPG is, that they need a GM and players and so on. And they go directly into this how to roll dice and the mechanics. And here is already another difference that I can see. Because the system relies only on D6s, nothing else. So they only mention 2D because D6 is the only dice type that they use in this system. Basically, you roll 2d6s and then you add your modifier and you need to beat a target number that usually is 7, but it could be more or less depending on the situation. And that's it for almost everything. In addition, they have the X in 6 mechanic as well. And this is basically what we have in white box. There are a lot of rules in white box that use these 1 in 6 chances, and they have added this as well to this book. So 2 basic mechanics, 2d6, and then you need to beat a target number or a chance in a 6, and that's it. Then they talk about the saving throws. As I said, we have death and poison, breath and paralysis, and it's power and magic. And it's basically the same, 2d6, and you need to roll above or equal your saving throw number. How to attack, 2d6 modifier, and you need to beat the defense of your enemy. Armor here does not increase your defense. We are going to see how they calculate the defense. So the defense here is not class, armor class is actually different. It is a little bit similar, but there is its own differences. And armor actually reduces damage. And this is one thing that I like a lot too. And another thing that I like, the spellcasters in this game, they need to roll to see if they are able to cast or not. Basically, and we are going to talk about how magic works in this game, but 2d6s, and then you see you add your attribute modifier. If you are a magic user, it's spirit. If you are a cleric, it is your presence. And if you beat the target number, you succeeded in it. But there are a lot of things that we can talk about this system as far as magic is concerned. If you have advantage, you roll 4 dice and keep the highest numbers. If you have disadvantage, you roll 4 and keep the lowest numbers. Characters. So they keep this really simple. We as I said, we only have 4 attributes, and we need to roll for them. We roll 2d6s, and we check depending on the value. We have a modifier. So if I roll, for instance, 8, I have a +1. If I roll a 5, -1, and so on. We roll for the 4 attributes in order, as we see in the character sheet. Then we need to pick a folk, a race, and then a vocation. And then we calculate the secondary attributes, attack, defense, and vitality. Then we need to take notes on what languages we speak. 3d6 times 10 is the amount of gold pieces that we start, so we can buy equipment and start the game. Depending on how much intelligence or actually spirit you have, you could just know one single language, and it could be the case that you do not know how to read and write. And this is something that I totally forgot, because in the old days, I remember that in order to be able to read and write, we had to buy some proficiencies in the AD&D, if I'm not wrong. So if you have only 7, and 7 is actually the average, you can speak in one language, but you cannot read or write. If we go here now to check the folks or the races that we have, they are the standard ones. We have the dwarf, and the dwarf brings +4 and the vitality. They have a perception exactly as we see in the other books, so they have more chances to find passages in caves and so on. They have dark vision. They can carry more items, so we just roll during the character creation and add these to your maximum weight that you can carry. And they can fight. They can smell treasure. Then we have the elf, and the elf has +3 vitality. They are immune to fear and paralysis from weak creatures, weak undead, and they have dark vision, but their evolution is a little bit slower. We can talk about this as soon as we discuss the evolution in this game. They have innate magic ability, meaning that they can cast spells. Regardless of your vocation, if you are a warrior or a thief or magic user or whatever, elves, they already have at least one magic tradition. And we are going to talk about this better in the future. So this maybe is the reason that make them their evolution a little bit slower. And they have this, I would say, elf perception, and they can find secret passages, I would say, easier than other races. Then we have the human. And the human in this game is actually overpowered, at least in my opinion. They have +3 in vitality, and they have, if we have 10 or more in strength, they have actually +4 in vitality. However, they are able to remove -2 from one attribute and give +2 to another attribute, meaning that if you have 8 in strength and you would like to have +2 in spirit, for instance, you can just reduce your strength from 8 to 6, then you can add +2 to your spirit. In addition to it, they can reroll once any attribute that they want in their character sheet during the character creation. They also start with 2 talents, and the talents is we are going to talk about this, but every vocation has its own talents. They have initial talents and additional talents, and humans, they start with an additional talent. Moreover, they evolve way faster than the other folks or races. Basically, every time that we gain a level, we have these evolution points that we can spend to evolve our characters, and usually it is 5 points, but the elf, they just earn 4, and humans, they earn 6 points. And halflings, they have +2 vitality, but if the halfling has 11 in strength or 12, they have +3 vitality. They have +1 in their defense if they are fighting big creatures. They have +1 in their attacks by using throw weapons. And if they have, for any chance, they have their vitality reduced to 0, meaning that they would be dead, they can roll a d6, and if they roll a 1, it means that they come back to life and they have just 1 point of vitality. And last but not least, they are stealthy creatures as well. So they have higher chance to hide in the shadows or in the forest or whatever. We just need to roll a die. And if we have a 1 or a 2, it means that we can hide successfully. Then we go to the vocations. And the vocations, they have a prerequisite they have a primary attribute, then weapons and armors that they are allowed to use. They have their mana points. Yes, in addition to roll for magic, you need to spend mana points as well. Then we have our saving throws and our initial talent. And the cleric, the prerequisite is the presence, and they need to have at least 8 in their presence. And this is important because 8 is the minimum that you need to have in order to have a +1 in your presence, and your presence actually define your amount of mana points. So if you have 8 means +1, and +1, in this case just 1 is your mana point. You would have 1 mana point to your cleric. However, the initial talent is Turn Undead. Turn Undead is the initial talent for the cleric, and not spellcasting. Spellcasting is another talent for the cleric that they can buy as soon as they have evolution points. As soon as they are able to evolve, then they can spend their points to buy additional talents, unless, of course, you are human, because human starts with an additional vocation talent. So the talents are Turn Undead, and this is like bravery and healing and detect powers, and then faith, and basically create holy water and spellcasting. Then we have the warrior, and the warrior or the fighter does not have any kind of prerequisite, meaning that if you just roll poor numbers, you are still able to create at least a fighter or warrior. The primary attribute is strength, and they are allowed to use any type of armors and weapons. And I just forgot to mention that actually the cleric has the usual restriction of only using blunt weapons and any kind of armor. They do not have warriors. They do not have mana points. They do have these numbers for their saving throws, and their initial talent is weapon specialization. And for the weapon specialization, what does it mean is that they have a +1 in their attack if they are using the weapon that they are specialized. Unarmored combat as well as another option. They have improved constitution. They have the ability to engage with the enemy, strategies, multiple strikes, and I would say it's dangerous strike. I do not know how exactly to translate every single sentence here. I would need to think a little bit more in order to translate this, but they have a lot of options here. Then we have the thief, or actually the rogue. And the rogue has, of course, prerequisite is agility, and it needs to be at least 8. They are allowed to use leather armor. They are not allowed to use shields. They can only use ranged weapons and one-handed weapons. They do not have mana points. These are their saving throws, and their initial ability is, or talent is, the rogue abilities. And I like it a lot, because what we have here, we have picklock, we have climb, forge documents, we have here hunting and forage, we have pickpockets, we have stealth, we have perception, and we have sabotage, basically, or disabling traps or something like this. And the initial rogue, they have one chance in 6 in every single ability. But during the character creation, the player can distribute 4 points into into these abilities, meaning that if I want to have a better climbing, instead of just 1 point, I can have 2 additional points, and it would mean that I would have 3 chances in a 6 in order to climb. In addition to these initial talents, they could have some contact in the city. They can try to decipher codes. They can have a backstab as an additional one, and they can read scrolls. They could have this ability that says that they always have a dagger that they can throw. So you need to roll. If you are in a situation that you do not have anything, you might have a dagger somewhere in your body. So you just roll, and if it is 1 or 2, you have a dagger hidden somewhere. Then we have the magic user. And the magic user, they have the spirit as their prerequisite. And this is actually the highest one because it needs to be at least 9. And they are not allowed to use any armor or shield. They are allowed to use daggers, staves, and swords, and a sling. So they are allowed to use swords here. And I think this is really cool because Gandalf used to have a sword, right? And their initial mana points is their spirit modifier plus 1. So at least 2 it's going to be their initial mana points. Then they saving throws, and they start with the initial talent of spell casting. But they could have in the future the ability to create scrolls. They could make potion or magic item. They could have a familiar, and the familiars could bring some additional abilities to the magic user, such as a snake could give the magic user poison immunity. A parrot could give them an ability to understand any kind of language. A turtle could give them 3 points, 3 armor points, and so on. So there are some suggestions here, but I think that there is room to be creative and add your own list of animals and what kind of abilities they could give to the magic users. They could even have this ability here. They could, instead of using mana points, they could use their vitality to cast a magic. This is cool. They could use additional mana points to make it more difficult to resist with saving throws. Basically, every 2 mana points that you spend, you increase 1 point in the saving throw of the target of your spell. Then we go to the secondary characteristics or secondary attributes: attack, defense, vitality. Attack is basically you get your strength modifier plus your agility modifier divided by 2, and it should be rounded to the lowest number. If you have plus 2 strength plus 1 agility, it's 3 divided by 2, it's going to be 1. The defense follows almost the same approach, but you need to sum the agility modifier and the spirit modifier. And this is good because spirit is the intellect. It's basically your mental attribute, and by using your mental attribute, it means that you have a better perception. You are paying attention to your surroundings. It's not just a matter of being agile. It's as well a matter of being aware of what's happening. So your defense is the modifier, agility modifier plus your spirit modifier divided by 2. And you need to sum to 6. 6 is the minimum, and that is your defense. So it's not armor class because armor does not affect your defense and actually reduce the damage that you take. And the vitality. Vitality is basically your strength plus the bonus that you get from your race or folk. How to leveling up here? So basically you earn experience by killing monsters. For every hit dice you have 100 XP. You can get XP for every gold pieces as well that you get for doing things in your adventure. And once you reach 1000 XP, you reach your first level. Because everyone starts as a level 0 in this game. So once you have achieved your first level, you earn 5 evolution points. And then you can spend this point in this table here. So if you want an additional capacity, weight capacity, it costs you 2 points. If you want to learn a new weapon, 2 points. If you would like to have a +1 dice in your vitality, 3 points. If you want to have an additional point of mana, 3 points. If you want to learn how to read scrolls, 5 points. If you want to have one additional point in one of your attributes, plus 5. If you want to have an additional talent, vocation talent, plus 5. Oh, actually, plus 5. It costs 5. And so on. So you can have more attack and defense, or you could reduce your saving throws as well. Meaning that once you reach an additional level, you do not have already a lot of new stuff. No, you need to invest your evolution points in order to customize your characters. And I like it a lot. This is really good. Then we have a whole chapter talking about equipments, and one good thing about equipment is every item in this game, they have durability 3, meaning that every time that you use an item or after every combat, you need to roll a die, and if you roll more than your durability, you reduce your durability. Meaning that if you have, for instance, a sword, and now your sword has 3 durability, and you roll a 1, so it's okay. But if I roll a 5, my durability goes to 2. And next combat, I use my weapon again, and I roll the 3. My durability now is 1, and so forth. So once I reach 0 durability, it means that that item is broken and I need to repair that. I would need to spend money on it. And this is a really good idea. And it can be used actually for everything. After the combat, you roll for your armor, you roll for your weapon, you roll for everything that you have used during the combat. Or if it is an item like a shovel, like a rope, you need to roll as well just to see if your rope is still intact, if your shovel can still be used, and I like it a lot too. Then we have this chapter talking about how to use magic. And exactly as I said, we have mana. So every time that a magic user or a cleric or an elf, a player wants to cast magic, they need to spend 1 mana point, then they need to roll their dice, and if they beat the target number, they succeed. If they roll 1 and 1, they have a critical failure. If they roll a 6 and a 6, they have a critical success. And there is this table here that can bring some mishaps for critical failure or good things in case of a critical success. And I just forgot to mention that during the combat, these rules also apply. You can have critical success or critical failure if you roll 2 6s or 2 1s. The magic here is abstracted. There is no extensive list of magic spells or anything like that. The only thing that we have is basically magic traditions. So we have abjuration, conjuration, enchanting, evocation, illusion, necromancy, and so on. So you just need to choose your magic traditions, and then depending on the magic tradition, you can just cast a spell of that school of magic. And that's it. So let's suppose, and this is the example here, that you are a magic user and you have your torch, and you would like to use your torch, the flame from your torch, to cause damage to your enemies. So you have your torch, you just use the fire from the torch. It means that you would cause 2d6 damage. This is the base damage that you can cause by using magic. But if you would like to increase, you can increase the damage. But for every additional die, you increase your difficulty in 1. So as I said, the initial difficulty is 7. So if you would like to inflict 3d6 damage, it's going to be 8. And it is for one target. But if you want an additional target, you increase in +1 as well. So if you want to inflict 3 damage to, for instance, 3 targets, you would have 9 as your target number. You will need to roll your 2 dice, normal. The checks are always done by using 2 dice, so you roll. Then you would add your spirit modifier if you're a magic user, or your presence if you are cleric. And if you beat 9, you succeeded in it. Great. And then you can cause 3d6 damage to your target, to all 3 targets. Otherwise, you failure. And if you fail, you lose the mana point that you spent on it. Really cool, really great. And there is a brief explanation of every magic tradition here, what kind of effects that they could have, but it's totally open to the player creativity on how to use this. And it reminds me a little bit of EasyD6, because EasyD6 handles it in a very similar way. And then we go to some rules to how to go in an adventure. So they explain here the days, turns, rounds, and so on. Adventures in the wilderness, in dungeons, and some useful tables as well that can be used, and some common actions such as search for something. So you just roll a die, and if you have 1 in 6 chances to find something, unless of course you have an ability and so on. The same for traps and listening and climbing. Of course, if you are a thief or a rogue, you have your own skill for that. But if you are just a fighter and you would like to climb something, you have 1 in a 6 chance to succeed. So you can roll to see if you are able to do that or not. And the same for smashing doors, and if you would like to forage or hunt, and how these things work here. Then this is the Bestiary, and once again, abstraction. In the Bestiary, we do not have a list of monsters. The only thing that we have are basically monsters type. We have beasts, we have magic creatures, we have chaos creatures, demons, dragons, humanoids, humanoid beasts, and evil plants, giant folk, undead, and trolls. And I'm going just to show you a few. What is the idea here? Basically, you just pick the type of monster that you would like to throw in your adventure. So let's say that I would like to have some kind of beast here. They have here a general table with a general characteristics, like which size we can have this beast. It could be any size. It could be a tiny, it could be a small, it could be medium, it could be big, it could be gigantic. So yeah, because there are a lot of type of beasts, and some suggestion of how many hit dice it could have, and the average of hit dice that a beast have. Then a saving throw, it's just 1 number for them, an attack and defense and armor. But it's a range from this number to this number and so on. Because here the idea is to you be able to create your creature as you wish. But you can randomize this as well by rolling in these tables. So basically these tables, this one gives to this beast a physical characteristic. And then you can roll some kind of abilities. And then we have some attack types that they suggest, like claws, bite, grab, charge, and so on. And that's it. So if we go here for instance, undeads are really good. So we have this list here. You can just roll. Let's see. We see an undead, and I rolled a 1. It's a humanoid skeleton. Okay, and it has red eyes. Okay, and the temperature surrounding this creature is cold. Cool. Then I could just say, okay, it's if it's a level 1 creature, if it is a level 2 creature, I can just decide the hit dice would be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, but the average is 10, and I could just decide the attack level and the defense level, even the armor. It's up to me to decide as a GM. But I could even roll here for the descriptions. I could say, okay, let me roll what kind of ability this creature has. And I rolled a 6, and it says like horrifying presence. So everyone that sees me is in fear. They need to roll a saving throw, otherwise they will run from me. So this is an ability. And I could even roll this other table here, shows some kind of feature or reason that makes my undead living. So 4 says actually I can only be destroyed by a male character, or by a female character, or by a type of person. Maybe only dwarfs can destroy me, or maybe only elves can destroy me. So yeah, can destroy the undead. So we can just roll in this table. So it's really abstracted how things are done, even for trolls. And even with this level of abstraction for monsters, they already added this monster generator here. So we can roll for the head, for the body, for the members, and we can roll the armor type, attack, defense in this table, some special abilities, some features that people can see, like 2 mouths, or like many eyes, or no face, things like that. Then we can have some special attacks. We have this table too. And yeah, and by using these tables, you have a huge amount of creatures and combinations that you could have in your adventure. In addition, we have these tools for the Game Master, and there are a lot of useful tables. Useful tables for NPC adventure creation, for rumors, for naming places, for NPCs, organizations, wilderness regions, settlements, dungeons, and treasure, and so on. Last chapter, we have how to play it solo. So it has solo rules as well. And with it, they add more an approach that is really known on the One Ring 2nd edition. There is this Strider mode, and basically you have this master or person that gives you your mission, and they choose to have the same approach here. This guy is going to give you some mission. So as soon as you pick, let's say the prince is your master, so you can just roll a d6 and check, and the prince asks you to find some treasures or some enemies. So there are a lot of missions here that you could use, like maybe the wise woman gives you a mission, and she asks you for some herbs, really rare herbs, and then you need to find these, or another kind of item. Then there are a lot of other tables that we can use to create and generate stuff in our games, and even a theme oracle that we can roll for action, for a lot of useful things here, and even results for after the adventure. If we succeed in something in our adventure, we can roll and see what happens, or if we fail, we can roll and see what happened as well. For instance, if you fail in your quest and you would like to have, okay, how does this end? You roll a 6 and you failed, it says that your name is going to be forgotten. Yeah, so this is the system, Swords and Daggers. If you would like to download it and check it by yourself, I'm going to put the link in the description of this video. If you would like to have this in English, I could try to reach the creator, and of course it would take some time, but I could try to support him on translating this to English. I hope you like this video, and if you wish to know more systems or tools that are available in Portuguese, I can try to bring them to you. See you in the next video. Bye bye.